Jamaica's political history did not begin in 1962. We often hear about Jamaica's political landscape from 1962 onwards. But what about the crucial developments that shaped our nation before independence? From 1866 to 1962, Jamaica experienced a whirlwind of political changes. Changes that laid the foundation for the Jamaica we know today. So in this video, we're diving deep into the untold stories and the pivotal moments that shaped our island's political journey. Let's uncover the history that many have forgotten, but that has profoundly influenced our present and future. Blessings everyone, and welcome back to Elite Jamaica. The period from 1866 to 1920 was a pivotal era in Jamaica's political and constitutional development. In the 6 decades following the Morant Bay Rebellion of 1865, Jamaica experienced dramatic shifts in political rights and governance. The rebellion's aftermath saw the imposition of Crown colony rule, stripping all Jamaicans, regardless of race, gender, or class, of any meaningful political influence. However, by the 1920s, the island had moved toward a more inclusive political system. The franchise had expanded to include some adult males and eventually women, although racial and economic barriers remained significant. This period marked the foundation of modern Jamaican democracy, shaped by evolving political representation and growing Black political involvement. Now, following the Morant Bay Rebellion in October 1865, the British government dissolved Jamaica's bicameral House of Assembly, which had existed since 1664. The rebellion, led by Paul Bogle and sparked by deep social and economic inequalities, prompted the British authorities to impose direct Crown colony government. This system transferred legislative power to the governor and the British Colonial Office, effectively ending Jamaica's limited form of representative government.
Dear Cook, just remember that we are running this parish, and at the next meeting of the vestry, I shall deal with Mr. George William Gordon. Your help, sir.
Jamaicans were stripped of voting rights and political participation, regardless of race, social standing, or property ownership. Under Crown colony rule, the governor held the supreme authority, with a nominated legislative council dominated by white planters and business elites. The political disenfranchisement of the majority Black population reinforced existing racial and class divisions, consolidating colonial power in the hands of a small elite. This system remained in place for nearly 2 decades before growing political agitation prompted constitutional reforms. So I want to change the name of the channel now. During the governorship of Sir Anthony Musgrave from 1877 to 1883, demands for political reform began to intensify. The catalyst was the Florence Affair of 1881 to 1882, in which the governor, without consulting the Legislative Council, approved the payment of damages from Jamaican funds for the wrongful impounding of a ship's cargo. This unilateral action sparked outrage among both official and non-official council members, leading to the resignation of prominent Jamaican members such as Samuel Constantine Burke and John McGlashan. Public meetings in Kingston in late 1882 reflected growing political consciousness across racial and class lines. Influential colored men like George Steeble, Richard Hill Jackson, and Charles L. Campbell aligned with working-class black leaders like John Cassis and J.C. Silburn to demand a return to representative government. Despite the findings of the Royal Commission of 1883, which downplayed the grassroots support for reform, Jackson's presentation to the Secretary of State for the Colonies highlighted increasing black political awareness and a desire for inclusion in governance. In response to political pressure, Governor Sir Henry Norman, who served from 1884 to 1888, introduced a new constitutional framework in 1884. The new system established a legislative council of 18 members, 9 appointed by the governor and 9 elected by voters in 14 parishes. A tax qualification of £1 to £1 10 shilling was imposed for voter eligibility, along with a literacy requirement for subsequent registration. The first voter registration yielded only 9,000 eligible voters, far below the anticipated 15,000. However, after the tax qualification was lowered to 10 shillings in 1886, the electorate grew to nearly 23,000. Importantly, the racial composition of voters shifted, with black Jamaicans comprising over 50% of registered voters by 1886. This demographic shift allowed the black Jamaicans to exercise greater influence over the Legislative Council. The first elections under the new system were held in September 1884, followed by parochial board elections in 1885. Political activity was initially subdued due to the long absence of representative government. In Kingston, Charles L. Campbell, a prominent colored politician, unsuccessfully ran against the white businessman William Malabry, highlighting the social tensions shaping early elections. The rise of black political figures was more evident at the local level. In St. Catherine, Joseph Millward Garden, a respected black politician and a property owner, emerged as a leading figure. Garden's success, along with that of other black candidates like Ozias Michael in St. Thomas, reflected the growing influence of black voters in local governance. Now, despite these gains, black politicians faced significant challenges. Many black voters were reluctant to support black candidates, viewing white and colored elites as more capable representatives due to their social standing and economic influence. Just before we go further, guys, if you find videos like these interesting, please give the video a thumbs up. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, consider doing so, as that really does help the channel. May I repeat this though. Despite these gains, however, black politicians faced significant challenges. Many black voters were reluctant to support black candidates, viewing white and colored elites as more capable representatives due to their social standing and economic influence. Furthermore, the colonial government remained wary of empowering the black majority, fearing a resurgence of unrest similar to the Morant Bay Rebellion. A turning point came, however, with the arrival of Joseph Robert Love, a black Bahamian activist and political organizer in 1890. Love's advocacy for black political representation and racial equality galvanized the political activism among the black population. His founding of the Jamaica Advocate newspaper provided a platform for discussing racial and political issues, fostering greater political consciousness. Love's influence was reflected in the 1895 by-election in St. Catherine, where Philip Stern, a Jewish lawyer, defeated the white establishment candidate with strong support from black voters. Stern's victory, aided by his defense of black soldiers in a recent court case, signaled a shift in political alliances and voter confidence in non-white candidates. The 1896 general elections raised hopes for greater self-governance, but these were dashed by subsequent colonial policies. Conflict over financial matters between elected members and the governor led the British Colonial Office under Joseph Chamberlain to appoint additional government members to the Legislative Council, effectively undermining the influence of elected representatives. By 1900, the Colonial Office had reversed earlier policies supporting greater self-governance for non-white colonies. Chamberlain made it clear that colonies with predominantly black populations would remain under Crown colony rule. This marked a return to the political subordination of the black majority, despite earlier electoral gains. With the reversal of political progress at the national level, political energy shifted toward grassroots and voluntary organizations. Robert Love's establishment of the People's Convention in 1898 provided a forum for discussing political and social issues, fostering greater political engagement among the black population. The participation of black women like Mistress Catherine Hart Mackenzie underscored the growing role of women in political discourse, even as formal political rights remained restricted. Economic difficulties and political disenchantment contributed to declining voter participation in national elections during this period. However, local elections and community-based initiatives provided platforms for political engagement, laying the groundwork for future political developments. The period from 1866 to 1920 was a formative era in Jamaica's political evolution. The post-1865 imposition of Crown colony rule initially stripped Jamaicans of political rights, but growing political consciousness and the pressure for reform led to the partial restoration of representative government by 1884. The rise of black political participation, facilitated by figures like Joseph Gordon and Joseph Robert Love, marked a significant shift in Jamaica's political landscape. However, the reversal of political gains by the British Colonial Office underscored the limits of colonial reform and the entrenched racial and economic inequalities within the political system. Despite these setbacks, the political groundwork laid during this period would ultimately shape Jamaica's journey toward self-governance and independence in the decades that followed. Thank you for watching. If you find this video interesting, please give it a thumbs up. Until next time, stay blessed.